Welcome to our Parent Forum, fresh start for 2021. As part of the ICANN Network's Autism Expo, it is a virtual expo for 2020. The ICANN Network would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay respects to our elders, past, present and emerging. My name is Kate Meade. I am the Regional Manager of Southwest. I'm a breakfast radio host with the ACE Radio Network on the Morning Rush and host of the Women of Influence podcast. I'm also a mum to 3 children. My youngest son, Chester, is amazing and has autism. This is a fantastic opportunity for parents to get together to speak about what's going on with 2021 and how we can best equip our children for the future. So as a proud mum of an autistic child, I know that there is a lot of anxiety about how we can best support the transition of autistic students into 2021 after such a, difficult, different, adapting, pivoting 2020. Normally, schools, parents and students would have access to lots of face-to-face support with their transition into next year for school, including that transition into high school. Obviously, with COVID-19, it's all different. And we have to think about our senior students as well, including those that are moving beyond, out into the community. What are they up to and how are they going to do it? We have put together an incredible panel for you today, and joining us to provide their hints and tips for supporting our students transitioning into 2021, I will introduce to you one at a time. I'd like to introduce Dr. Emma Goodall from Positive Partnerships. Emma is an autistic educator and researcher with a strong background in evidence-based autism education strategies through government and non-government organisations. Currently, Emma is the National Coordinator for Content and Resources for Positive Partnerships. Positive Partnerships is an aspect program supported by the Federal Department of Education to support the relationships between school staff teams and the parents of Australian autistic learners. Next, a very warm welcome to Jake Holland, who is providing our student voice today. Jake will be entering Year 12 in 2021, and Jake has spent 6 months in Melbourne's lockdowns. Jake has been in the ICANN Network program since 2016 and is now a trainee mentor, which sees him mentor 19 St. James students in the ICANN program on a Friday morning. How are you, Jakey?
I'm doing pretty well.
Am I allowed to call you Jakey? I didn't even check to see if that was okay.
Oh, you're the first one to call me that.
I'll try and see if I can wind that in. And now we also have Kristie Murden. Kristie is a proud mum of 3, which includes Gus, who is proudly autistic and entering Year 7 in 2021. Kristie and Gus live in Riddles Creek, Victoria. Kristie led ICANN Network's pilot online programs for parents this year and is very passionate about positive relationships and teachers. Emma, let's kick off with you, I think, first. Parents and students are, it's fair to say, feeling a bit anxious about 2021 after such a different 2020. What are your thoughts on this anxiety, and what researchers would you and Positive Partnerships recommend to support schools, students and parents?
Thanks so much, Kate. I think the first thing is to just acknowledge that it's absolutely normal to feel anxious about a transition such as changing years in a regular year, let alone such a different year that we've had this year and not being able to have those regular transition visits. So it's fine to be anxious. That's perfectly normal. And I think just talking about that for a start with your young people is really important. Why you're nervous, what you're anxious about for them and for yourselves. One of the things that Positive Partnerships has done is we've just run a couple of webinars that are hosted on our website, the recordings, so parents can go on and watch them whenever they feel like it, and so can educators. And those were on returning to school, particularly in the Victorian context, where Victoria has just come out of lockdown today. Congratulations, Victoria. But that's 6 months effectively of not being in a school environment. And so that's going to be such a big change for many young people. And I acknowledge that some families will keep their students home for the rest of the school year because there's such a little amount left to go. And in, out might feel very difficult for some families with kids or parents on the spectrum. Other things to do are to think about ways that you can look at getting your young person to know the school that they're going to, if it's a completely new school, or just revisit the school so they reorientate. I'm an autistic myself who kind of orientates by being in the space. So I like to go and visit the space, preferably when there's not many people around. So that's something that families can do with their young people over the holidays, or even just sort of after work or in the evenings when it's not raining. And just to, while you're walking around, if they're open sort of yards and things that you can walk around in, they're not gated, just talking about what things might happen where reorientating to the vocabulary of school, the expectations of school, because everything is so different from being at home all the time. We also have quite a lot of resources on our website, and I would recommend that families go on and have a look what's relevant for them. There are some tools on there to do partnership plans, for example, between home and school. And so families can go and they can have a look and say what's useful for them, and then talk with the teachers via email or text or the apps, whatever you're currently using, to try and set up a meeting so that you have something pre-planned for next year. You don't want to arrive on day one and be going, oh, we haven't got a plan. So we really want plans in place before term 4 ends, so that families can start preparing from their end, and the teachers for next year can have some idea of what they need to prepare for too.
I really like, and what I'm hearing too is it's okay even to ask the school to provide some extra resources as well. So if the school is unable to allow a site visit at the moment, well, perhaps can a teacher run around with a video for us, or take some photos of the classroom or the cafeteria, or and usually they might even have that already done, perhaps, or, and if they're not, it's worth asking, isn't it?
Absolutely. Many schools already do have that. Where they don't, if you ask for it, suggest that they keep them on the network at school for the next family that wants it. Because the more that we normalise these kinds of supports and resources, the easier it is for people to ask and receive as well.
Hey, Jake, let's go over to you now, because I think it's fair to say it's been a bit of a tough year, a bit of a different type of year for you. How would you describe this year?
I've been thrown out of school and then back into school. I've been forced into my house and kept in my house, and then told that I can leave at any time I like. It's a bit odd.
Yeah, and dealing with that and trying to learn at the same time, I guess. Did you learn stuff this year?
Well, I'll be honest, I suffered from a lot of procrastination and laziness because I was in the comfort of my own bedroom when never doing the work.
Jake, I hear you. I feel you. I'm nearly there, right there with you. Though I do believe you've had some pretty great teachers that have, or teachers or mentors that have really been able to support you as well. Would you like to make mention of perhaps who they were, but more we're trying to identify too, what about their actions was it that helped you throughout this year?
I can't really narrow it down to one teacher. It's more the group effort. Pretty much all the teachers would stick around, have conversations with me after everyone else has left to make sure that I am on top of my work. You know, I'd ask them questions about the work, they'd clarify stuff, and then hopefully I wouldn't suffer from laziness and actually do the work.
Yeah, yeah. And what about mum and dad for you at home? Did they help you navigate through this as well? What did they do?
Well, they were definitely stuck inside the house with me and provided excellent conversations during recess and lunch breaks.
I'm sure you push them to their limit in terms of conversation. Here's my thing though, what I want to know particularly from you is, how do you think parents can best support other students going into year 11 and then into year 12? What would be, let's start with one thing for a beginning that parents could do to help students in going into 2021 next year, it's particularly in those senior levels.
Well, I remember whenever I was told that I was going to leave St. James, go to St. Bede's, and then do year 11 there, I just sort of rolled with it. My parents, they made sure I knew everything. They taught me the bus routes. I had friends going there as well, so I had them to chat with during recess and lunch. I think I did meet quite a few of the teachers before I actually went there. On the parent nights, whenever they invite you in, give you tours of the school. It was quite nice, the school. And year 12, on the other hand, the year 12s currently, right now, they're doing their exams, and I feel bad for them because they just got chucked back into term 4 and then immediately told you're doing exams in a few weeks. It wasn't even a few, it was less than that. And transitioning to year 12 with the coronavirus year 11 knowledge is scary for me, honestly. In terms of how parents can help, it's sort of a hard one as it varies from case to case. So, you want to actually figure out what your son finds scary, well, son or daughter, or some other pronoun, I don't know. Well, you just want to figure out what they're finding hard, what they're finding tough, see if you can contact the school, work with them, try and work all those issues out. I know one of my good friends is currently suffering from pretty darn bad anxiety. They're getting her a psychologist and all that. And the coronavirus sure as hell didn't help with that anxiety. She's alive, she's doing well. It's just, apparently, it's just in really bad. Luckily, her family's chatting with her, making sure she gets the help she needs, figuring out the problems before they spiral out of control. Really, that's all I encourage. You just figure out what the problem is and handle it before it spirals out of control. You can't just be like, "Oh, it's Jake. He'll be fine." He's always been fine. Yes, in a situation like this, they're never always fine.
Yeah.
Especially whenever it seems like the end of the world is just around the corner.
Yeah. And Jake, so what I was kind of hearing from you, particularly in that first part, was kind of around organization and taking the time to be prepared so that if a surprise pops up, well, it's going to be maybe a small one instead of everything being this bombarding surprise, one after the other after the other.
Yes, organization is definitely very helpful.
Mm.
I was just in another chat panel thing with a bunch of teachers and kids with needs, and the recurring theme was organization. Everyone needed it to actually stay focused and be a lot less scared. Because if they know what they're going into before they do it, they're a lot more prepared and a lot less scared.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, can I just add something to that? What Jake's made me think about is when you're going into those senior levels, they're quite a little bit different from younger levels in school. And so it can be really helpful for parents to talk through with students what that means in practical day to day. How many subjects will you be doing? What things are compulsory? What isn't? Is the uniform slightly different? All those little hidden curriculum things that also change as you go up the school years. Those are also really important to understand. Even things like if you are suddenly going to be doing a lot more work on a laptop rather than doing it on paper, that kind of thing can come as such a shock and really throw those of us on the spectrum if we didn't know about it beforehand. So it's really not just organization and preparation on the behalf of the student, but also parents helping them to know what it is they need to be organised and prepared with.
Jake, would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, wholeheartedly. I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly.
Hey, Kristie, I want to go to you because you've got this amazing quote that I want to bring to light. The teacher is the school expert and you are the Gus expert. Now, Gus is transitioning into year 7 next year, which I imagine is pretty exciting and a little scary at the same time. So, I mean, I want you to unpack that quote first, because I think that's something as parents we need to probably hold on to a little bit more. We are expert. We've seen the bulk of it. We've seen it. We're the experts when it comes to this part, and the teachers are the experts on the teachers' part. So please, can you unpack that? And how do you deliver that to people without them going, oh, but I'm an expert too?
Yeah, that was something that we put in place early on before Gus started prep. He had his diagnosis already. So at that time I did up a welcome to Team Gus profile sheet, which had some specifics about things that Gussie might speak about, his interests, his family, things like that. On the other side of this Team Gus page, there was I guess his autism specifics, so what it might look like if he's about to have a meltdown. If he does get to that, this is what the teachers should do. In my delivery of that Team Gus profile, that's when I put it to them that they're the classroom expert, but I'm the Gus expert, and that any issues that they were seeing in the classroom, they could bring those to me and I may know a way to fix them. So I think it just was a very well received way. The school were really great in the way that they received that, and it just got us into this team straight up.
Yeah. Tell me, as Gus is getting a little bit older now, when you're pre-preparing this, is this something that you prepare every year? And now that he is a little bit older, does he help contribute to that a little bit? Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yep. So we have, we update his Team Gus profile probably twice a year. And since he was probably start of grade 4, he's contributed to that. So him and I will sit down at the computer and go over things that he thinks should be on there. I think going into his grade 5 year, perhaps, he suggested that we should write on there that he might lie to get what he wants, and that if the teachers don't believe him, that he might put them on a guilt trip. So it was pretty funny putting this on the sheet and seeing his teacher's reaction to that at the time, but that was just information that he thought that it was helpful for school to know. And yeah, so we've just redone that for year 7, which bit of a different format now, because he's going from a school of 300 people that all know him and understand him to a school of 1,300 without any of that. So yeah, a bit of a scary time, but he was pretty excited to sit down and update his Team Gus profile the other day.
So Team Gus profile is ready to go for 2021. What else have you put in place in terms of this transitioning phase, knowing that, I mean, yeah, you haven't been into the school yet, or you may have been in, or what's that looking like for you?
Yeah, so I met with the school in Feb, so just before all of this, I guess, blew up. We're in Victoria, so regional Victoria, but we're still only just coming out of the lockdown phase. So we did have a lot of plans in place which haven't been able to happen and probably won't get to happen. So we've had to shift course a little bit. His high school did have a video that was discussed earlier, bit of a walk around of, they have a year 7 building, so most of his classes will be in that one building. It also showed the wellbeing area, the office and the sick bay area. So he's been watching that. We've purchased his new school uniform and school shoes, and he's been wearing those around. So in my next meeting with his primary school, I'm going to ask them if he would be able to actually wear that uniform to school a couple of days a week, so that he's actually at school in his new school uniform, just to help ease that transition a little bit. Probably a big thing that we've done, and I think Emma touched on it earlier as well, Gussie's never really had anxiety until this year. So we've done a lot around understanding anxiety. which is hopefully the theory going to help with his transition. There's not a lot more that we can do in as far as actually being in the school space. So we tried a different approach, and he's been watching a lot of YouTube clips on how anxiety is actually a good thing, but sometimes it can kind of run away with you and grow its own legs. And I guess the other thing that we're doing in regards to that is his grade 6 teacher and I are in constant contact, and she's making sure that she's using the same language around that as I am. So he's getting the same message at home as he is getting at school, which has been really helpful as well.
My next question was in regards to building positive relationships for Gus with teachers and wider community. You've partially answered that through the Team Gus profile, which I absolutely love. How do you go then wider community? What's your, how do you go with, you know, getting him in and getting him involved?
Yep. And as far as his school, the wider school community, I became a face at the school, I guess. I did have an older child there, but I threw myself in wherever I could. I changed the message on the notice board out the front every week. I was helping on excursions, became a face that the teachers knew. That opened up a lot of conversations around the school. Gussie very early on asked if he could stand up at an assembly and tell the kids about his autism and explain himself a little bit. So again, that was another big conversation starter. So I think for us both within his school community and within our local community, it's always been about conversations. I think we've been open in what we put out there, we've been honest. And I guess we've always had some expectations of the fact that people just accept Gussie as who he is. No one's got permission to change him. He's autistic, he's got blonde hair, he's got blue eyes, he's got autism, and that is how he comes. So I guess we've always been on the front foot around people accepting him, and that has been really well received both within his school community and beyond.
Jake, I'd be fascinated to hear from you with that side of it, both on the profile sheet that you know, can be delivered to teachers or community groups if you're getting involved, but also that idea of getting up and speaking and explaining to everyone who you are and what you're about and what's going on in your world. Did you ever feel like you needed that? And I know that everyone is completely different, but I just thought you were in front of us today. So what was perhaps your experience?
Well, first of all, I never got a personalized data sheet.
Yeah.
I can thank my mum for that. She's lazy. Instead, she actually went up to the teachers and explained everything before they actually started to teach me, which was quite the interesting approach. She had annual, monthly, not term-based, once a term. Sorry for my words. Every once a term, she would meet with the school. They'd tell her the problems they're having, but also the things they're liking. She'd tell them how to handle it. And then things would get better for me and I wouldn't even know it. But in terms of transitioning from year 6 to year 7, my mom knew that I wasn't that great with crowds, like giant crowds. And heading to St. Bede's, if I went there immediately, it would be going from a school of 200 to a school of 1,400 with no one I know or like. So she sent me to St. James for me to just sort of build up confidence and all that. And then I was thrown over to St. Bede's with people I know and like. But in terms of talking about my autism, I've never really come out and stated I'm autistic. I've never thought I have to shove that down people's throats. I'm not a fan of really just proclaiming myself as autistic, not because I'm afraid to. It's just because I don't really want to annoy people with that. If I do tell someone I'm autistic, it's just usually in casual conversation whenever I find it necessary. I immediately told my friends after I was diagnosed, hey, you know I'm weird, though apparently I'm autistic, so hey, there's an explanation for that.
It's a great kind of weird, hey?
And they're like, yeah, don't know what that is, but I guess it explains it.
Do you know what you sound like, Jake? You sound like you've got good mates. That's what you sound like. That love you for who you are.
Yes, it was back in year 6 before autism was all over the internet.
Yeah.
For not so good reasons. But
Emma,
these
are you hearing threads like I am? Threads of preparing, threads of trying to really open up conversations between teacher, parent, teacher, student.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. Working together, everybody, the autistic individual, their family and the school is so important. If we can work together in a positive partnership, then everything will always be better for everyone concerned. And I really liked your Team Gus idea. So having some kind of short information, one pages we like to do in positive partnerships. So we have something, a characteristics or planning tool that is about the characteristics of the individual, what the impacts of that might be, and then what some strategies might be. And you might present one to a school when you're just starting, and then you might meet with them a month or so later to do an update. So it's a really collaborative tool, and it's something that you can use across school and NDIS and community groups. But it's that whole conversation thing. And it interests me Gus wanted to stand up and talk, because that's great. And there are kids who do, and there are kids like Jake who are just like, nope, that's not my thing. But I think it's really more about the school embracing diversity as a whole and teaching that diversity is a positive thing. So whether it's diversity of gender, ethnicity, language, culture, neurology, all those things, that diversity enriches our community. And the more that we do that, the less each individual label matters. And it's more just the characteristics and their impacts, and then the strategies that you respond to those with. So I think in the last 10 years, things have changed dramatically. As Jake was saying, when he was in year 6, the way autism was perceived and understood is quite different to now. And I think that in another 10, 20 years, hopefully it will just be everybody's different. Everybody has support needs and everybody has strengths.
Kristie, do you want to add to anything there?
I love that.
I just felt like, I think we were both like,
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of what Emma just said, I love, and Jake as well, I love that Gussie's school allowed him to stand up in front of the assembly and tell his whole school about himself. In this case, it was about autism, which he was quite proud of. I love how Jake said that he didn't feel the need to do that. I think it comes back to that old adage that if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. That was something that Gus was really passionate about doing, something that Jake didn't feel necessary. Neither is wrong. They're both just their own path. I love that Emma's projection of 10 or 20 years' time, how amazing, because of what our kids are doing, our people are doing, the parents, everybody involved, how amazing to think that in 10 or 20 years' time, these conversations will just, I haven't got the language for it, I guess, won't be relevant, because it's just totally accepted that everybody's different. There are so many different types of diversities, and those would just be accepted because this generation has, and beyond, are just growing up with them as their normal.
I guess that's why these forums, these expos, the ICANN network, it is so important for these conversations to start. And we encourage parents to connect with both Emma, connect with the program, and always looking for ways in which, to learn and share. I guess this is what it is, because I guess sometimes for me, I know that we've got a world of support all the way wrapped around us, but at sometimes you go, but are we doing the right thing for Chester? Are we, you know, he's still a little fella. We're making a lot of the decisions for him. He's the background is he's 11. So we're still making those decisions for him at the moment. We can't wait until he can.
Yeah.
We can't wait until he can tell us. So yeah, it's that. And 2021, I think, you know, I just have to say we've got to look forward to it, don't we, with positivity. We've got to say, no, it's a brand new year. You know, we're going to start again. You know, we might have some stuff hurled at us, but that could be every year moving forward. There's always going to be some stuff.
Yep.
So
I know in our home we had a conversation about do we potentially get Gus to do year 6 again, just so that he can prepare for it better. And at the end of the discussion, we just came back to the fact that he spends his life surprising us. So why would a world pandemic be able to shift that? He spends his life being out of his comfort zone and excelling there and being able to grapple everything. So we just got to give it a shot.
all right, sorry, Emma, I don't want to cut you off. Sorry.
I just wanted to say on that point that because all autistics are so different to each other, what is right for one is not right for another. And as parents of any child, you make decisions with the knowledge that you've got on the day that you make that decision in conjunction with your child. All parents make mistakes, all kids make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Love is the most important thing. Loving, accepting, valuing, respecting. And autistics grow up differently. You can't look at us at any age and project where we're going to be as adults, which you can with typically developing kids. So we do surprise people all along, no matter what our support needs are, no matter what our strengths are. And I think it's just very much about being open to the potential and presuming competence in areas that you think, oh, I think they could. Just presume that we can and provide the support to get there, and we'll always surprise you.
And I apologize because I start to tear up when you speak about that, Emma. Yeah, because it is. And Jake, if you're like, what is going on with these crying women? It's just simply because I think regardless of everything aside, you know, we're just trying to do the best. We're trying to do the best for this person that's in front of us. So we, some days like that. Can we go around the room? I'm conscious of time and always conscious that in these types of forums, we kind of open up Pandora's box and, you know, they've only given us 40 minutes. Geez, wow, thanks guys. But we will be still available for Q&A after this video has ended. So if you want to chat to any of us, anyone can join in there. Let's go around the room, around the Zoom now. If there was just one thing that we could do today to prepare our student for 2021, what would that one thing be, Jake?
Sit down, chat, figure out what's wrong, and then work on that problem. Really, I just like organization. So if anyone's able to help me out with organization, I'll take that on board.
And by the way, not that I've had a really good look, but I think that looks like the most organized Star Wars display that I have ever seen. Is that?
It was a lot more organized until I needed to make room.
Yeah, fair enough.
It used to be sectioned into the genres and different parts of Star Wars, but then I had too much Lego to build, so I mushed it all together and made more room.
I'm sorry, but if you saw our Lego collection, you would say yours is, you know, needs to be in a museum compared to ours right now.
Well,
so
you should see my dad's, it's even better.
Emma, what would your one thing be for 2021 and preparing?
So my one thing would be focus on your child or young person's strengths and show them how to use their strengths to mitigate the things that they struggle with. Because we always do better when we focus on our strengths than when we focus on our anxieties or our weaknesses.
Love it. And Kristie?
So now I'm crying again from what Emma just said.
Sorry.
Jake is like, seriously, get me out of here. That's it. I'm done.
I'm a talker. I'm a communicator. My thing is get the communications open. And I think probably that comes a little bit back to Jake in like communicating with my child around what's worrying him, communicating that to the school, to any other support networks along the way. Communication for me, definitely.
Yeah. And I guess if I'm a part of this group, mine for me is we're about to head into summer where we're going to see some freedom. So we're going to be talking about school, but we're not going into a transition year. So we're going to just be enjoying some outside time and some getting fresh air time and understand. So for me, Chester hates exercise. That's a new battle in itself. So maybe 2021 is just about getting him outside a bit more and getting him to do some stuff, but and understanding how important that outside part is going to be. So
there is a fun fact about not going outside.
yes,
Yeah, your skin can turn red if you don't get enough sunlight.
I will tell him that this evening.
And you should be having the Lego outside.
Yes, that's it. We need to, yeah, that's there you go. Why hadn't I thought of that? I put a tracker on him. You know, the steps, you know, and I tried to make it a bit of a competition. So yeah, no, he just thinks he calls it the tracker. Not I called it the wrong thing.
Yeah, it just seems like a tracking device.
Yeah, honestly, Kate, exercise, if it leads to pain, can be very off-putting for many of us on the spectrum, because we don't realize that the more we exercise, the less pain there will be. But if it's enjoyable outside, such as interacting with someone you like or doing an activity you like, just take the Lego outside.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So for us, it's preparing 2021 with just some good old-fashioned family fun, I guess, for us.
One thing we did on Christmas, which made the outdoors more fun, you know those giant bubble things you can get on yourself and bash other people with? Yeah, we got a collection of 4 of them, and I was the reigning champion.
Somehow, I have no doubt.
I felt very bad for continuously beating down that Irish girl that came over for the year.
And she's probably never recovered either.
She's probably never coming back.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining this parent forum, and to everyone that's tuning in to watching, we'll be about, so you can ask any one of us some questions. We've learned a lot, and Emma, I believe you're going to have some information readily available as well about partnerships. And do you want to give us your website now while we're still chatting? What's the best website to find you?
Positive Partnerships, I think .org.au.
Yeah.
Just put in Positive Partnerships and autism in Google, it will come up, but I'm sure it's positivepartnerships.org.au, and it has an absolute wealth of resources on it. Everything is freely available. Everything is Creative Commons licensed, so you can photocopy it, you can print it, you can share it. We have videos, we have templates that you can use to fill in, we have online courses, and we run workshops and webinars as well.
Fantastic. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for the 2020 Autism Expo.